Hello everyone and welcome back. Now, yesterday I've asked you to tell me what was your favorite and what is your favorite PvP ship, and the answers were pretty good, pretty interesting. A lot of people seem to like the Ashimmu, and I love the ship as well. I also love my Cynabal and Arbitrator, and also I've noticed a lot of people comparing Ashimmu to the Cynabal. And well, that gave me a idea to take a look at both of these ships, and well, I'll explain how I will use them. Now, this is the good old fit that I did have last time on my Ashimmu. Very soon, and I mean very soon, I'll be able to fit one large shield booster, which will make the ship extra tanky and extra lethal. But at the moment, the current fit is doing a good job. A ship that is more focused on PvP. It is highly lethal for PvP due to the very deadly bonuses on webs and Nosferatus, while also delivering very good DPS. Those were my rigs, both focused on the power grid and DPS. Now, let's take a look at the ship's bonuses. Okay, I've noticed that in some translations the web bonus is not translated correctly. So this ship will have a plus 20% status obifer optimal range bonus per level. That means once you increase the skill level, you are going to get 20% with every increased skill level. That is one of my personal favorite aspects on this ship. Currently I have 21.76 kilometer range with the Republic Fleet web. That is a little bit higher with the Predator web. And now let me hop into one of my Cynabals. Now I have two of them. One of them is focused for PvP, the other one is for storyline missions. And let me show you this is the PvP Cynabal. We'll have to change some rigs on this one. I am still debating which one to put, as you are going to see once I open the fitting window and once I go to the rigs. And also I'll explain how I use this ship for PvP currently. I'm quite successful with this ship actually. For the main weapons, I'm using medium autocannons, so far very lethal weapons, actually might be my favorite weapon system in the game at the moment, besides drones. And of course the good old modules, dual C-type gyros to increase the DPS and 1 damage control. These are the rigs. As you can see, I have two of the prototype rigs in the engineering rigs section. I plan to further improve the ship's velocity and maneuverability. That means those two rigs are going to go out very soon and they will be replaced with tier 3 rigs. That's practically the only reason why I didn't put tier 3 rigs in the first place there. I am still experimenting with this ship. Very good DPS by the way, 941. Now this ship is also focused mostly for PvP in a different way, and the roll bonus allows it to warp very quickly and it allows it to have plus 5 more seconds on the damage control. The other skills will increase the turret damage, the turret tracking speed, which again further adds to the efficiency in combat. Now this ship doesn't have any bonuses on webs or any disruptor or any NOS, so we are going to have to rely on the ship's guns to stay alive. Overall, a very good cruiser. I love it. Been using it for I think a couple months now, and it is my flagship PvP ship at this moment. My way of approaching PvP with this ship is kind of interesting. I use it as a hit and run ship. So far I made a couple billion ISK that way with it. And the other Cynabal is my original one, the one that I actually bought a couple months ago. And this ship is primarily focused for storylines. It has a storyline mission fit. 848.81 DPS. I balanced the DPS out between DPS and alpha damage. Can hit pretty hard with the cannons while also maintaining a very good rate of fire. Dual NOS, one web, the good old hammerhead, afterburner, large shield booster, damage control, and dual invulnerability, or one invulnerability and one reactive. The rigs are generally the same, with the difference being the other two capacitor rigs are tier 2 and tier 3. So far I don't plan to change those, they seem to be working quite well for the purpose that I assigned this ship for. And the other stats are mostly the same. Of course the capacitor will be different because of the more advanced rigs, and the ship velocity between this Cynabal and the previous Cynabal are mostly the same. Right, well, back to the Ashimmu. Ashimmu is on the slower side, but you don't actually need the ship to be that fast because it has very good bonuses on webs, on Nosferatus, and you don't even need to be close to the enemy ship to catch them. Okay, well, time to explain how I actually do PvP with the ship. Now this will be a simulation. That means the NPCs, imagine that the NPCs are players. I'll simulate what I do on them. So this ship is a angel cruiser. Angels are known to love ambushes. They're also known to love huge ships, and well, they are obsessed with fast ships too. And this ship warps quickly. It also is very quickly. And you can use that ship in the good old conventional way of PvP without the current fit that I have. It works quite well. But in my case, I prefer to use the ship as a hit and run killing machine. That means I warp in, I find the target, I quickly approach, dropping the point, dropping the scrambler, and going in close and personal to the enemy ships so that they can't run away. And so far I was very successful with this ship that way. I still haven't lost it to any PvP. A couple times it was close, a couple times, well, one time was actually very close, but still I survived. With this fit, you don't want to go on a true 1v1. The ship is designed to shoot ships that are already busy shooting at something else. Basically, you are going to jump people while they're busy in an anomaly or while they are doing something else. That way, you can maximize your DPS, and this ship, because of its high DPS, can terminate ships very quickly. 1.5k DPS on this Cynabal, not a small number. With tier 3 rigs, I plan to hit 2000 DPS. With tier 4 rigs, will be fun when that happens. Which makes the Cynabal have the highest DPS of any faction cruiser in the game. Now its tank is good, it can take hits, but I would advise against it because most ships, for example Ashimmu and Gila, can out-tank it. Gila especially, Gila is very tanky. Now, again, like I said before, you can use the more conventional fit for PvP. It works, but you have to be more careful. This way, I play it kind of safe, but at the same time is also kind of risky because only one damage control that works for 18 seconds, which I use mostly as a panic button. And so far, again, was quite successful. Now back on the Vampire here. This ship has a lot more tank, it has also a lot more stable capacitor, and a lot more web range. Its DPS is a little bit lower compared to the Cynabal, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't need more than 700 DPS for most of the PvPs around. In this case, you are going to outlast any ship on the field because of the dual Nosferatus, or one Nos and one neutralizer, depends on what you use. You can web them before they can web you. With the Predators, you can web them at 29.6 kilometers. That is more than double web range than any other ship. And also you can use the Disruptor at 30 kilometers. With beam lasers, you can keep them at range without any problem, while destroying their capacitor and basically preventing them from running away. The Nosferatus will keep your shield booster running, and you don't have to worry about any Cynabal if you web it at 30 kilometers if they use autocannons, which they do in 99% of cases. The lasers, the pulse lasers, have 12 kilometer optimal range, can hit even at 15 kilometer range, while the autocannons in the Cynabal have a range of optimal range at 2 kilometers, can hit up to 10 efficiently, but after that it kind of starts to become inaccurate. So in that case, Ashimmu has the upper hand, of course. If you use beam lasers, then you are super safe from most of the ships, and you can safely keep them away from you, webbed, and of course without capacitor. And well, that is a brutal way to go, if you ask me. Without cap and unable to move, and of course unable to fire back, which makes the Ashimmu one of the most feared ships in the game. Now, it also depends from player to player. There are some very dangerous Cynabal pilots, and of course there are some very dangerous Ashimmu pilots. But in the end, it all depends from the player. There are cases where Cynabal's crazy DPS can outperform Ashimmu, and of course, if you're careful with an Ashimmu, then you shouldn't be worried about any high DPS ship, because you are going to be outranging them anyway. In my case, I love both ships. Both ships have different approaches to PvP. With the Ashimmu, you can go in the more conventional way of PvP. It works because of the superior capacitor and tank, while the Cynabal is more suited for the hit and run attacks, which, by the way, it is very efficient and deadly for that. Ashimmu is of course a little bit slow, so your targets have the chance to run away. The first thing that you should do once you lock on them is to drop the web and disruptor, and of course once they are webbed and once they can't warp off, you can slowly approach them. You can use a MVD or the micro warp drive that will improve the ship's velocity a lot. In a lot of cases, it actually works quite well. You don't have to worry about the capacitor because of the large Nosferatus. So you have a lot of options to go for with the Ashimmu. Now, for missions, for storylines, I prefer Cynabal in that case, because simply it has a lot more DPS. You can destroy these ships a lot quicker. It's also faster. It means that the speed tank will work in that case a bit better, and you can fit Nosferatus in the Cynabal, which of course contributes in the ship having longer capacitor runtime and of course longer shield boost time. Ashimmu also works quite well, but it will have lower DPS, and of course lower DPS results in taking a little bit longer to shoot down the enemy ships. But of course you have the long range web, you have Nosferatus, which will make your capacitor immortal in a way. That means infinite shield boost time, but of course in the end it will take a little bit longer to complete the mission. Both ships are viable for storylines and for missions. It only depends which one you actually prefer to use. In my case, I just prefer to use the Cynabal because it has higher DPS and it shoots down ships faster. Now, there are some situations where I would prefer Ashimmu for storylines, and of course, there are some situations where I would prefer Cynabal over the Ashimmu for some storylines. And that mostly depends on the damage type, on the storyline mission, and of course where the mission is located at, because in some cases after I complete the story I like to go on a roaming trip. Now, speaking of roaming, I think Ashimmu is going to be very good at it. So far, where things are going actually, I've almost learned to fly the ship properly. I have the good old tradition to learn the ship before I actually start to use it in PvP. Way I can actually try to avoid most of the lethal mistakes that I used to do back in the day. and that's why I first finish up with the skills, and after I finish with the skills, then I proceed on to learning how the ship works. And I can tell you, Ashimmu is one of my personal favorite ships now. It is the third ship in my main ship tree, besides the Cynabal and besides the cover tops. Interesting how most of the players I know used to love to fly the ship as well. And of course, I made the cover tops popular. That ship is also one of the most flown ships that I've seen. Recently, I've seen someone I actually got recognized, and they chased me, of course, because that's what happens when I go out to roam. They were flying a Arbitrator cover tops too, and when I saw that ship, I immediately knew the fit. I just knew everything, and that pilot was actually in a small fleet of, I think, 4 other pilots. Wasn't able to catch them. Was roaming a little bit, but you know, I got recognized, and once that happens, I have to be super careful. With the Ashimmu, I don't think that I will get chased that much, because no one wants to fight this thing. And 1v1, I think you can literally get all ships if you play the Ashimmu properly, because it just is that dangerous. Speaking of being dangerous, the tank for this ship, so far I've been recommended to use the shield tank, because of there are some power grid issues if you use the armor rep modules and armor hardeners. That's what I've been told, at least. I will finish with the armor skills after I finish with the current electronic warfare skills and turret skills, so that I can test out how that will work. And I've also read that shield boosters use less capacitor than armor repairers, although kind of weird, because I remember using dual medium armor reps on my Cynabal one day, and the capacitor was actually stable with 2 of them, while back then I used a medium shield booster and the capacitor wasn't stable. So definitely things are interesting there, and potential balancing might be needed into the future. As you can see, so far I'm having a blast with the Ashimmu. Capacitor is super stable. Impressive how good the Nosferatus work with bonuses, and it is very evil to have Nosferatu bonus, neutralizer bonus, and web bonus on the same ship. Of course, the web isn't a strength bonus; it is a range bonus, which is actually worse if you ask me, because you can web them before they can web you. That will be, I think, one of the key points in PvP with this ship. I'll be able to web them, and they're going to be helpless, and they're not going to be able to do anything to approach me. And once their capacitor has been sucked dry, then there isn't much that they can do. Ships that use projectile turrets, Cynabal for example, doesn't need the capacitor to damage you, so I would still be very cautious around any Cynabal, because those things are terrifying. Their DPS is terrifying. But I think if I keep them at range, they shouldn't be that much of a problem. Gila can be tanky, but again, once the capacitor of the Gila goes down, then there is little that they can do. Of course, they use drones and missiles. Both these weapon systems don't need capacitor to run, so they can still hit you, but you are going to be able to withstand the damage, because you have Nosferatus and, again, a large shield booster in that case. Against the other faction cruisers, once their capacitor is down, then their weapon systems also go down. Hybrid turrets use energy. They need energy to run, and if their capacitor is 0, then they can't shoot at you. Okay, well, I'm now in my Cynabal. This is the storyline mission fit. have the dual Nosferatus afterburner, and of course shield hardeners and damage control. Now you can argue, and of course you don't need to use the damage control here. In this case, you can replace it with another hardener. It actually is kind of a better idea, but I just like to use all of the ship's bonuses that I have at hand here, and the damage control can save your ship in some very crucial situations. For example, let's say I lost my shield and I was stuck in a storyline, encountered and literally surrounded by enemy ships. I can't take too much armor damage, but I can turn on the damage control and I can turn on the shield booster, and I can recover my shield pretty quickly, because the super high resistances that it will give me are enough to withstand damage and slowly repair myself. That's one of the things and one of the points that you can do with the damage control, which you can't do if it were, for example, another hardener. But of course, you can choose the fit that works best for you. In my case, this fit here proved to be very effective. I've been doing storyline missions this way for a very long time with this exact fit here, and no issues whatsoever. Doing tier 8 storylines, in my case, is proven to be more efficient than doing tier 10s. It's faster, and I can get actually more ISK from tier 8s than from a tier 10 storyline per day. Depends on how much active I am throughout that day. This ship is also capable to do tier 10s. Both Ashimmu and Cynabal are actually capable to do tier 10 storylines without a problem. As for the skills, I think there is a little bit difference in the skills. My cannon skills are maxed out, while on the Ashimmu I still have to increase a couple more levels on the lasers, which is interesting because back when I used to fly a Phantasm, the skill I haven't actually changed the skill back from the days where I flew the Phantasm, so they were pretty much the same. So that helped to make the jump to the Ashimmu. Now, so far, the large shield booster on this ship is doing a good job. 2 minutes and 40 seconds active boost time is more than enough time I need. While if I had the large shield booster on Ashimmu, that would be infinite because of the large shield boosters. Not large shield, because of the large Nosferatus, not because of the large shield boosters. So this fit works for both ships quite well. This ship's shield, armor and hull are quite balanced. It has very similar amount of shield and armor. Ashimmu has a lot less shield but a lot more armor because it is a Blood Raider ship. They should be armor tanked, but the shield tank on Ashimmu works because of the current way the shield booster works, and of course in my case I have very good skills for the shield and for the shield hardening, while my armor skills aren't that advanced, mostly because I never used armor tank really, because the way I roll mostly was shield tank from day one. Most of my ships are shield tanked, and they work pretty well so far. Okay, and a couple more of these missions should do, I think. Now, it will be fun to see how these two ships will compare to the Orthus. Orthus has also very good bonuses on disruptors and I think on scramblers, which makes that ship also a very deadly option for PvP. It uses missiles. It has also a bonus on missiles and torpedoes, which I think will be very deadly. I can see the Orthus outperforming, I think it can actually outperform a Cynabal. Of course, we will have to see what happens once they get available, but I think it might be a missile version of Cynabal, so that ship might also be a very viable option for PvP. You know me, when they get available, I'll fly them. I'll also fly the other faction cruisers that are currently not available yet. So definitely very interesting future for these cruisers. So far, been having a blast flying any cruiser actually. So they are my favorite ship for a reason. They are a multi-purpose platform for basically anything that you can throw at them. They just work. The Nosferatus on the Cynabal can keep the capacitor alive. Interestingly enough, almost similar stability comparing it to the Ashimmu. Although you can't shield boost infinitely long, while with the Ashimmu you basically can infinitely boost your shield. Of course, if your target has capacitor. Now, good question though. Can you get capacitor if your enemy doesn't have any capacitor left? In that case, things might be interesting, because what happens if you lose your capacitor while your enemy also loses capacitor? And let's say your enemy can shoot without capacitor while you can't. There are some windows of opportunity to shoot down one Ashimmu, but in most cases I would avoid doing a 1v1 on that ship. You can, of course, do a fit that focuses on long-range weaponry, so that you can keep it at range at 50 kilometers. That way you can shoot it without taking any hits on the capacitor, because, you know, Ashimmu is a little bit slow and it can chase very quick, very fast ships. Very interesting theories, very interesting tactics. I'll have to test all of that out when the time comes. And that means very soon, because I'll be rolling out the Ashimmu for solo PvP in a couple days from now. And well, those were the two faction cruisers that I personally love and fly every day. And well, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Stay safe, fly safe, and I will see you next time.